All right. Welcome everybody here in person. Welcome everybody online to this special Board of Education meeting for the Appoquinimink School District. Thursday, August 21st, it is 5 p.m. We will start this meeting as we start all of our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. A couple of quick notes. Nichelle DeWitt could not be here in person, but she is online with us. Nichelle, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being able to attend, at least electronically. This is a special meeting. There is only one item on tonight's agenda. As we suspected would happen at our board meeting last Tuesday at about 9:40, so after our board meeting ended, the General Assembly granted school boards, school districts located entirely in Newcastle County the ability to differentiate tax rates and set a separate rate for residential and non-residential properties. The non-residential rate cannot be more than twice the residential rate. School districts are required to get that if we're going to do it, we have 10 business days. So we're within the 10 business day period, and that's the purpose of this special meeting, to receive a presentation from our financial folks, and then to vote and possibly differentiate the rates. So with that, we are going to have a presentation, and I believe that our former CFO, who has come in to help us these last 2 months, Chuck Longfellow, I see you on the screen now, and so you're going to lead us in this presentation.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Excellent. All right. So this will be an update on the tax warrant and the presentation of a potential amended tax warrant for fiscal year 2025. Next slide, please. So the latest legislation that came through include these three bills and additional bills. The one that we are discussing tonight involves House Bill 242, which enables school districts in Newcastle County that are fully enclosed within Newcastle County to revise tax rates for fiscal year 2026. If I said 25, I'm sorry, I meant fiscal year 2026, by setting the separate residential and non-residential tax rates to adjust the balance between two categories, ensuring there is no increase in total revenue, and as Mr. Forston said, ensuring that the non-residential rate is no more than twice the rate of residential property. Next slide, please. This is the tax warrant that was passed in July. And so if there's no change tonight, this is the one that will stand. This includes the 10% post reassessment increase. Next slide, please. Just a note about what we mean when we say residential property. One of the things we had to do is determine, what does that include? What does that mean? Newcastle County already classifies property classes R, which is residential, ER, exempt residential, F, farm, and EF, exempt farm. Those four categories comprise what they call residential. Even though they say exempt, some of these parcels that are classified these ways do have some residual taxable assessed value to them. So that's why we include all four of those.
Chuck, can we just go back to the last slide real quick, Steve?
Yes.
I want to go back to this slide because I just want to be clear. The only tax that we raised pursuant to that 10% authorization regarding reassessment was the current expense rate. That's the only tax that went up 10%. The other Like debt service was unchanged. Tuition is just a function of what our tuition expenses are. And the different match taxes are a function of how much the General Assembly is willing to match. So when we talk about the 10% increase that we adopted at our July meeting, that 10% was just to the current expense ratio, correct?
That's absolutely correct. Current
Okay.
expense is the one that involved the 10%. Tuition did go up because of increased cost of educating children in the needs-based categories and special programs as allowed by law. And match are they're different depending on what the law allows as far as a match, and that's all in the either Delaware code or the state budget
Right.
bill that sets those, or that
Okay.
enables us to set those. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next. So go back one, please. So just a note, before reassessment, using the 1983 values, the tax burden was essentially on 86.1% residential and the balance non-residential, according to these property class definitions. After reassessment, that shifted 89%, 89.5% residential, the balance 10.5% non-residential. Next. So oh, go back one. There we go. So I was asked to model what it would look like to provide the maximum relief to the homeowners in the district under um, the abilities we had under HB 242. So maximizing relief to homeowners. These would be the new overall rates. Residential rate would be 57.693 cents per $100 assessed. And that's 9.5% less than the post reassessment rate of 63 or so, whatever that number was. Non-residential rate would be $1.15.379 per 100 assessed, which is 81% more than the post reassessment rate of the 63 or so cents. Again, this models maximum relief to residential properties. Next, please.
And Chuck, real quick again, I
Yes.
mean, the reason I made the point earlier was because when the current expense rate is the only one that we raised, is the only one we had the authority to raise that 10%. So right now, that rate pursuant to the slide is 30.3541 cents on the dollar, 10% of that being about 3.5 cents. So we're having an overall reduction proposed here for residential of 0.6375 to 0.57693, which is a reduction of more than the 10% increase that we passed in July. Is that correct? The increase to the operating expense. The decrease in the residential rate is more than the increase that we had passed in July. So it's actually going to be a little lower.
No, I don't know that I'd say that. When you take all of the tax components going, yeah, I don't know that you would say that, because when you do this apportionment between residential and non-residential, it's going to impact all of the tax components proportionally. It doesn't just pertain to the operating part. It's spread. And you'll see in a later slide what it looks like among all the rates. And if you were to
Oh,
compare
no,
those, yeah,
yeah, Chuck, you missed my point.
okay,
My point is that you're right. The 10% reduction or the split differential that we're going to do right now, assuming that we do it, cuts all of the different tax rates by some percentage. But the only rate that we had used our authority for pursuant to the reassessment statute was the operating rate. And so
that
as
is
long,
correct. And the operating rate is about 57 or so percent of the entire rate, if I remember correctly.
yes. Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
That's okay. That's okay. Um, So yeah, the residential rate, the new one, if this model is accepted, would provide or would result in reductions in the currently issued bills of 9.5% on the school tax. So okay, go ahead to the next slide, please. This is what the rates would look like, residential and non-residential, when split out into the tax warrant. So if this is the model that the board wants to pursue, then these are the rates that would be on the tax warrant that would go to the county. And next slide, please. Just a few graphs to see, just to show comparatively the impact. So the top one is if the proposal tonight is accepted as is, then the responsibility for the school taxes in total on residential would be 81% versus 19% non-residential. Post reassessment, which is where the bills that are issued now currently out there, is the center bar, which is 89%. 89.5% of the responsibility is on the residential, with 10.5% on non-residential. The bottom bar represents what it was like before reassessment happened. If things had just gone on without reassessment, then the responsibility would have been 86.1% on residential. Next, please.
So real quick, Chuck, so
Yes, go ahead, back.
regardless of the 10% increase that the district did, it seems residentially, the residential property took a larger hit as far as the burden on taxes than commercial after reassessment, correct?
Yes, that's true. And it doesn't look that dramatic here. It's just, 3.4% different. But I know from the phone calls that I've been helping to answer, there are individual cases that are far more dramatic than what you see here. You hear about bills going up. I've seen 55, 80%. I've seen even some that are more than doubled. So this provides some relief, but this really, without the county going through and looking at those assessment appeals, that I'm sure there are a lot of people who have valid appeals out there that haven't been adjudicated yet. Those cases are still out there, but this is just overall when you take the district in total. Okay, next slide, please.
All right, so thank you, Chuck. Thank you for the presentation. So in accordance to House Bill 242, the following tax rate recommendations are presented to the school board for approval. They're listed there. So the overall tax rate is 0.57692 for residential and 1.15378 for non-residential. I know that you wanted to have public comment on all that. Is there any questions or any additional questions on this?
So I just, beg your pardon? What do you mean there's no numbers? Oh, well, mathematically, they've done it. So does anybody have any comments? We have one person who signed up for public comment. I don't know if any board members have any questions for Dr. Longfellow or Dr. Burrows before we have public comment.
Nothing, I have nothing now.
I have no additional questions, but if we can take public comment and then we can come back to the board.
Yeah, no, so we're, if anybody has any questions on the board right now of the presenters, now's the time to ask those questions. We have one person who has signed up for public comment, and then we'll make a motion and presumably have discussion on whatever that motion is. Chuck, I mean, for the people who, like me, were just kind of playing on their calculator, which is on my phone, if I assume that $500,000, I'm just picking that number, as an assessment, then I take the old rate that we had, which was 0.6375, and I multiply that by $500,000, and I have a school tax bill of $3,187.50. If the board were to adopt the new residential rate of 0.57692, then I do the math on that same $500,000 assessment, and the school tax is $2,884.60, which would be a savings in the case of a $500,000 assessed house of $302.90. Am I doing the math correctly?
That sounds right. It would be a 9.5% decrease in the bill. And yes, the way to figure it out is what is your assessed value? What is your school taxable assessed value of your property? Divide that by $100 and multiply it by the total rate.
Okay, so with that, unless, Norm, do you have any questions for? Okay, we have one person who signed up for public comment. You get 3 minutes, and, you know, the usual rules all apply. Be respectful, don't attack people, et cetera, et cetera. So, Mr. Kisner, David Kisner. You have a microphone? That's fine, yeah. So we'll have a clock over here that'll count you down. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening. I appreciate you allowing me to address. As I always preface, not personal, it's business, dollars and cents, burden on the taxpayers. Try to make it as brief and short and concise as possible. A couple of words I learned back in the day. Shall and may. Shall, you do not have a choice. I learned this back in the academy. May, you have discretion. Legislating, even the prior when you put on the 10% initially, you have discretion to go up to 10%. Doesn't mean you have to exercise the full 10%. I also got hold of an article that I gladly forward to you. Brandywine, they lowered their tax bill, school district, and a couple other school districts in question that I'd like to see things happen, Christiana, and the state as a whole. Big thing is the burden on the taxpayer. I see a lot of new green pipes going up in the area. That's a brand new revenue source that's not being taxed or tapped into, both commercial and residential. I also see the age of many of our attendees at some of these events, not 25 anymore. A lot of us are either aged out by statute, retirees, disabled vets, medically impaired, etc. A lot of other expenses fall on the burden of the taxpayer. What may seem like a big deal, $300, well, I think you guys might be able to sharpen your pencils a little bit. If you have that discretion, I know you did your calculations, I got that. If you have your discretion of going 5%, 10%, or 10% versus 10%, that'd be great. I also got hold of another article today I skimmed over. It actually listed vendors that the state utilizes for its services, various equipments, etc. And the commonality that was brought out was 3 of the top investment firms in the nation, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Found that interesting from 2 points of view, but the one for tonight, I'd be curious, the vendors that you're using and who has interest in those 3 investment firms. Are we getting the best price? Are we putting things out to bid for service versus, low bidder, best bidder, or because there's interest in those 3 coincident, well, I don't even think it's coincidence, because on every one of the ones of services that was listed, those 3 had the largest interest in those services and supplies. So as far as cost cutting, that might be something to pursue.
All right, well, Mr. Kisner, you are out of time. I appreciate your coming and speaking, and it's always interesting to hear your thoughts.
Okay. I appreciate, I yield back. Please consider the burden on the taxpayer. I yield.
Thank you.
Okay, there being no one else signed up for public comment, the I think we ought to get things started with a motion if we can, if someone wants to make a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 tax warrant. Residential as presented, 0.57692, non-residential, 1.15378. As presented and as discussed in front of us.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Abrams, second by Dr. Graham to approve splitting our property tax rates. Residential would become 0.57692. Non-residential would be 1.15378. Questions, comments, discussion on the motion? Dr. Graham.
No, Mr. President, I'll ask for a point of privilege. Matter of fact, let me just let's see if the motion passes or fails. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. President.
Okay, any further questions, comments, or discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I just like to comment, I guess to everybody here, glad to see that we're able to do what the county does with their end of the tax burden. But as a business owner, it is going to affect our community, and I'm also a family that is affected by this. I just think through all this, we can't, you would drive by Lorenzo's, Pro Clean, all these businesses that we need, we support and should support. But the residential, as we said, property owners did take a bigger hit than our commercial brothers. And, I think this is a great opportunity for us to try to balance that scale a little better than the county led us to have. That's my only comment.
No. Okay, unless anyone has further comments, I'll call, Nichelle, I'm sorry, I know you're online. Did you have anything you wanted to comment about before we vote?
No.
Okay, well, then with there being no further comments, the chair will call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we have adopted the new tax warrant, and the district will get this information to the county tomorrow. And just so people know about the process going forward, then the county is collecting this information from the school districts and expects to send out new tax bills, I believe, the first week of September. The time for paying the bills has been extended, but I can't, I can't speak for the county in terms of precisely when they'll get the bills out, but I know they're focused and they're ready to get that done. So Dr. Graham, did you have something further you wanted to comment on?
Yeah, Mr. President, if I can ask for just a point of privilege.
Sure.
I just wanted to kind of follow up on some of the comments that we heard in our meeting last week with the community. I just wanted to acknowledge some of that commentary that evening. And I just wanted to say that we most certainly recognize and we have learned what has brought us to this situation, and we're committed to learning what has occurred, and we appreciate the support, not just from the community, but from our leaders to help us understand what has indeed taken place. One of the comments last week that really has resonated with me is a community member stood up and said that she is losing confidence in us. And so we are committed to restoring that confidence. We certainly own what has happened as an entire leadership team. Another comment that was shared was that we seem to be kind of taking this lightly or being dismissive of it. And that is certainly not our intent. Of course, we can't share with you discussions and dialogue that occur in executive session, but I can assure you that no one has been taking this lightly since we've learned of it. I think we all have been committed to off-cycle meetings, off-cycle phone calls, discussion, engagement to learn, and more important, not to just learn what has happened, but more importantly, learn how to mitigate this going forward. So I did just want to make those comments that we certainly as a board do not take this lightly. We own this entire process from beginning to end. We are looking forward to the external audits that are happening next month. We're confident that it will affirm what Chuck and Scott has already revealed to us. And as you know, I think we have demonstrated that we are taking active steps to mitigate this. We have a new financial leader sitting here to my left. We're working on our financial advisory committee group. And then we as a board are committed to just continuing to learn and support each other in this and being able to kind of sit here before all of you and take the necessary steps. And as you can tell by our vote, we certainly support any opportunity to be able to offset the expense because we recognize what is actually happening. And to Mr. Higgins' point, we know that we have kind of shifted some of it to our commercial operations in our community, but clearly based upon our vote, we feel like that's the right thing for us to do for not just for our students, but obviously for our taxpayers. So I just wanted to acknowledge where we are, what has brought us here, our commitment to get it right, and for this hopefully to never occur again. Because like I said, the comments last week, we certainly took them to heart, and we do not want anyone to think that we aren't taking this serious or we're minimizing it or just kind of like moving on from it. We are part of the community as much as we are elected officials, and so we take our roles very serious. So I just wanted to comment. We've had quite a few emails, quite a few phone calls since then, and so I just wanted to try to close the loop from a board perspective. Of course, speaking for myself, but hopefully I'm confident that my fellow board members agree with my commentary. So that will conclude my comments, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. No,
We're not,
no, not now.
We're
You
not
can talk to
taking
us after the
comments from
meeting,
the
but
floor.
not now. Norm? No. Nichelle, any final thoughts?
I'm good.
Tim?
Just to reiterate what Dr. Graham said, with all the emails, phone calls, stopping it, Sprout, wherever, we do feel it, and we're part of the community, and we hear you, and we are trying to do our best to be the best stewards with the funds of our community. And through the emails, I just got back from Idaho, so I really couldn't respond to many. I literally had barely any internet service for the last few days, so wasn't ignoring anybody. I just couldn't really retrieve my emails. That's all.
So, yeah, I will also say, to the extent I've been getting emails, I've been trying to respond to them. Certainly, my goal is to respond to every email I get. But with that, we are adjourned. Thank everybody for coming. We have a Financial Advisory Committee meeting coming up on the first Tuesday in September, and then our regular school board meeting will be Tuesday, September 9, here in this room. We are adjourned.